Welcome, everybody. I'm comedian Rajiv Satyal, Cincinnati-born, LA-based, and I just finished Indian Matchmaking. If you checked out the global sensation, you might have heard my voice. Well, now here are my thoughts. A few weeks ago, I got a message from my friend Madeline. She and I were in acting class together out here in LA, and she asked if I wanted to do audio description for an upcoming Netflix show. And I go, oh, you mean like voiceover? She goes, no, they're gonna have to go into the settings on Netflix and check the box for English, and then they'll hear your voice. I go, oh, that's funny. I'm familiar with that because to watch my stand-up on Netflix, they have to exit out of Netflix and go to YouTube. I got the job. And so it came to pass. For 4 straight days during this COVID quarantine, I made the short trek from Burbank to Hollywood to lay down these tracks. I knew I would binge watch it upon its release because I found myself immediately getting caught up in all of the stories. In fact, Glenn, the sound engineer, had to remind me, you're not acting, you're describing. So, experimenting with the 4 things you could do with your voice, tone, pitch, speed, and volume, I threw fastballs up the middle, although maybe a cricket analogy would be more apt, never betraying my affinity for Vyasar, the teacher based in Austin, or my aversion to the comedy-hating lawyer Aparna in not Austin, aka Houston.
I don't have to be the funniest guy in the room. I don't need that.
So here's an example of audio description. The New York City skyline glistens, a Netflix original series. On a restaurant patio, Nadia sits with Guru.
So I saw your parents are from Guyana.
Yes, they
That's
are.
so cool.
Sometimes it sounds like a tennis match. Aditya. Akshay.
T-shirt and this shirt and jeans.
Aditya.
I wanted to talk to you
Akshay.
about something.
Is this okay?
Aditya.
That's you when you come here, no?
Akshay.
Will this look good on the trip?
By the way, thanks a lot, casting directors, for plucking the hardest Indian names to pronounce that you could find. Vyasar, Pradhyuman. Are you kidding me right now? I had to practice saying Pradhyuman late at night, but I was afraid to say it 3 times in a row because it sounded like the Hindi equivalent of Candyman. Like I'm just sitting cross-legged on the floor and I'm like, Pradhyuman, 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 and wah! A gigantic Indian man carrying gulab jamun shows up in my room. But seriously, Pradhyuman, Krishna's oldest son, do you want to throw in some sankalps and vevabs while you're at it? Alright, so here are the funniest things I found about the show. As inventive as the names were, maybe consider investing more than 30 seconds into naming the show. Indian Matchmaking? That is a working title if I ever heard one. Well, what would these same producers call Breaking Bad Making Drugs?
Seriously.
Or, I mean, maybe they'd call Seinfeld a show about nothing, just... Indian Matchmaking is a new Netflix show featuring cisgendered, heterosexual participants trying to find love, and it's based in the United States and in India. The star is a matchmaker, Seema from Mumbai.
I'm Seema Taparia. I'm Mumbai's top matchmaker.
The show follows 7 of her clients, 4 men, 3 women, 4 in the States, 3 in India. They are Jay, a lawyer in Atlanta, Aparna, a lawyer in Houston, Vyasar, a teacher in Austin, Nadia, an event planner in New Jersey. In New Delhi, you've got Akshay, the mama's boy, Ankita, the independent businesswoman, and in Mumbai, you have Pradhyuman. Oh my gosh, I don't even need my notes, but I can remember the 7 wonders of the ancient world. I can remember 7 ancient people wondering why they're single. Too harsh. And given how things are going in the United States, a green card here may not be worth more than green tea. I mean, look, we might have a lot of Indian Americans trying to go to India to settle down there. We might even have some Caucasian Americans leaving here to go settle down there. And don't think, ABCDs, that we have that much of a lead. We don't. White Americans are gaining on us. They already eat turmeric, they already do yoga, so this might be more stiff competition than you might imagine. Not that Indians may take us. They're gonna be like, oh, you're from the US. Oh, sorry, we're full. Seema from Mumbai. I love how she states her name and location like she's at a customs interview.
I'm Seema Taparia from Mumbai. Seema from Mumbai. I'm from Bombay, Seema.
Who's she trying to be? Jenny from the block? Don't be fooled by the fox that I got. Is that a fox or a dog or a cat? She can't tell the difference.
You have put the pictures of these kittens?
No, so that's my dog, Conan.
Okay, no shade, I applaud these 12 participants. It takes some serious guts to put yourself, your struggles, and your entire backstory out there, possibly to be mocked. Out of the 500 people they asked, only 12 people acquiesced and said yes. 12 Indians, not 12 Eskimos. There are 1.3 billion of us, and they got a dozen. And I'm specifically not doing the math to break the stereotype. Marketer Jeremy Haynes got into some hot water for tweeting the following. If you don't come out of this quarantine with either 1, a new skill, 2, starting what you've been putting off like a new business, 3, more knowledge, you didn't ever lack the time, you lacked the discipline. Despite his lack of punctuation, I agree with him, but, and this is a huge caveat, this applies to a segment of the population where money and dependence ain't a thing, alright, to those of us whose time is our own. The point is, context matters. Similarly, I wish the producers of Indian Matchmaking would have better painted the picture, either through Seema, the de facto narrator, or through chyrons on the screen. What is the pie chart breakdown, okay? The 3 sections. 1, kids who have no choice whatsoever. Adults make all the decisions, traditional arranged marriage. Then you've got people who have nothing to do with this. Kids make the decision, adults have nothing to do with it, completely love marriage. Or you've got a hybrid approach, which is featured in this show. But what percentage of the population is that, and how does that vary amongst the cities, which house 35% of India's population, versus the villages, which are 65% of it? How does it differ?
What's the difference?
Despite the way that Seema first comes off, talking about how she has some very good Punjabis also, like we're baseball cards, I actually think Seema is a good person at heart. When Vyasar tells her about his father's dark past, you don't see the gears turning where she's like, oh my gosh, he's not gonna find someone or it's gonna affect my percentage. I think she has genuine compassion for him.
After listening to Vyasar's family history about his father, I was so surprised. I really felt sad that he had a very difficult childhood.
The other side of the coin though, okay, Seema was dope when she looked at Rupam's father, the turbaned Sikh, and she just said to him, like, dude, what are you doing right now? You're rejecting an Indian man because he married an American woman?
Do you see the irony here? You're rejecting somebody because they're bald.
That's not fair, man. So she chastised him, and I love that she did that. But I kind of wish they would have had her talking to the camera afterwards to talk about how crappy that really is and how single mothers have to bear the brunt of the mischief by men.
Professional or what? Why? What happened? Why?
That is his past life. That is gone.
People
why should
don't
we dig?
want to discuss their past
life.
bad experiences.
Rupam was right. Her dad did make us Punjabis look pretty bad.
Who are Punjabi are very open, very welcoming. They have open hearts, but he's being a pretty bad Punjabi.
There should have been more criticism of the cheating husband, who is the cause of this entire mess. Nothing illustrates the chauvinism of society more than how females are shunned due to male mistakes. The best part of the show, though, was a few minutes later, Rupam is getting advice from whom? Her white friend.
And then actually, out of nowhere, on Bumble one weekend, I met someone. Oh my goodness.
I love that. Go, Rupam. The criticism of the show is a little bit laughable. Arranged marriage is by far the most interesting aspect not only of Indian marriage, but probably of marriage anywhere. The fact that nearly 1 billion people partake in a ritual that is foreign to most of the rest of the planet is the reason you would make this show. It is the raison d'etre of the entire series. So while they could focus on trans or homosexual relationships, the reality is most of those fall outside the rubric of arranged marriage. That's not their fault. That is just reality that we mostly focus on cis and hetero ones.
This ain't reality TV!
Similar to the criticism lobbed at Mindy Kaling's show Never Have I Ever, also on Netflix, I think we need to lower our expectations of what a show is supposed to achieve. It's entertainment, okay? In the great words of a mediocre group, please don't put your love in the hands of a rock and roll band and throw it all away. Oasis. In episode 7, modern businesswoman Ankita gets mad at the matchmaker because she didn't tell her in advance that the man with whom she was setting her up had already been divorced.
She googled his name, and the third or the fourth link that came up showed her that he's a divorcee.
She said she liked him, but she was upset with the matchmaker. While I can understand her frustration, it made no sense not to see him again. It's not like she ever has to see Seema Auntie again. What is she, subletting a place from them? In the great words of a great philosopher, a finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. The finger is needed to find the moon, but if you mistake the finger for the moon, you'll never know the real moon. Thich Nhat Hanh. Or in more modern parlance, hey, shit that happens. I love Vyasar, okay? Even his screw-ups are endearing. Here are my 3 favorite Vyasar moments.
I don't know how to create romance.
Which he then proceeds to depict 2 minutes later when he's video chatting with Manisha.
What'd you do today?
Oh, I cleaned my bathroom. I realized I hadn't cleaned my bathroom in a while, and it was a lot of hair. I always forget. It's not that I forget how hairy I am, but I forget that like what it looks like when it accumulates.
Who says that? Maybe call him when Harry meets Salah. I know. I'm very proud of that one. Almost as proud as when I was texting my friend Richa Murjani, who's on Never Have I Ever. I go, you know what? Since you've got Richa Murjani and Purna Jagannathan on the show, you could do your own spin-off and call it For Richa or For Purna.
I felt like, looking at her, it was really like, I felt like I was looking at the sun sometimes. Not in the sense that the sun is hard to look at, but like, she's radiant. She really is radiant.
Vyasar, dude, I am totally using that next time to pretend like I'm paying a compliment to someone, but I'm low-key throwing shade. Although I guess you could have finished it in a way that reflects our true attitude. I mean, in the sense that if she spends too much time in the sun, she'll be too dark to get married. Too real? Too real, right?
By the fourth or fifth phone call, the doubts were rock solid.
Who describes doubts as rock solid? This reminds me of a time when my brother was helping my mom push something under the bed, and it wasn't moving, and then finally he got it to move a little bit, and he goes, "It's budging." My mom doubled over in laughter, because who uses budging that way? Usually say it to describe something that won't budge. IMM has come under fire for portraying stereotypes, and as a comedian, I can relate. Idiots tend to blame the joke when the joke is really a signpost for you to dig to find where the underlying problem is. Don't attack the work, attack the problem in the culture that makes the work possible. That's the entire point. And the reality is that slim, trim, educated has long carried more weight than healthy, and dim. And while Akshay's mother, Preeti Auntie, is tragically, if not uncommonly, misguided,
नहीं पसंद है, ये ऐसा है, वैसा है, वो automatically धीरे-धीरे हो गया. Like immediately उसने शुरू कर दिया बोलना.
let's not act like these things don't exist in Caucasian culture. They do. I've certainly heard white families lament the fact that they have a younger daughter, she's not married yet, and there's an older daughter, she is married, and they're waiting to have a kid. This happens. Okay, I remember being jarred listening to Meghan Trainor's song, Dear Future Husband. You're just gonna drop that into the middle of a pop song? So let's not act like other cultures don't also have preferences. Besides, for all the criticism, I don't hear a viable alternative. How would that work exactly? Here are 12 brave people bearing their souls in front of hundreds of millions of people. They're revealing their deepest insecurities for others to discuss ad infinitum, ad nauseum. Now, let's bag on their choices and insult the very core of how Indian society is built. I mean, a westernized dating show would have been exactly that. Westernized. Arranged marriage is the hook here. Indian marriage without the arranged aspect is like showing black culture without a soundtrack. Okay, I got an idea. So, black folks had made the best music in history, from jazz to blues to disco to hip hop. I know what I'm gonna do. Silent film. Great move, Fulio. Because they do show progressive parents. Remember Ankita's father?
She's been very gregarious. I think she's ahead of her times. She's not wrong, but are we ready to accept that sort of a thought process?
I think this generation is like this now. Rebellious.
Or what we consider rebellious.
Yeah.
That's pretty progressive, man. I mean, especially from a baby boomer, good on him. Indian Americans continue to complain about the way we're portrayed in the media, okay? From Never Have I Ever to Indian Matchmaking. They're saying that we're displayed as the model minority. Okay, let's discuss the difference between model minority, which is a standard that may or may not exist, and brown excellence, which clearly exists, okay? I understand that we're immigrants of choice, not necessity, but however we got here, we are the wealthiest ethnic group in the richest nation the world has ever known. I mean, we probably live better than any subgroup in human history, and our reaction is to bitch about it? I mean, I thought I saw the height of privilege when I heard Angelinos complain that every day here is the same. Yeah, I get really tired of blue skies and all of this sunshine. What are you guys bitching about?
It's sunny every day here. It's like manifest destiny. Don't tell me we didn't make it. We made it.
I applaud how the show did its best to avoid the traditional dinner, hangout, or date, right? I mean, they are making clay pots, they are throwing axes, they're riding horses, they're doing goat yoga, which, by the way, a goat and a yoga together didn't really make much sense to me until I saw the couple that went on that date, Jay and Aparna. I go, wow, the goat and the yoga actually seem to go better than this couple. But honestly, if you ever need a tip, the best date, if you're just feeling a little bit more traditional, Thursday, 9 p.m. drink. Take it from someone who spent a lot of time single. It's the best possible date, okay? 9 p.m. on a school night clearly is not dinner, all right? And, you know, after an hour or Aparna's billable 55 minutes,
I'm like, get me out of here. Is my 55 minutes up?
if you're miserable, you can call it a night. Hey, early morning meeting. It's Friday, right?
Yeah, I gotta get up early tomorrow.
But if you're having the time of your life, you can pretend like you are back in school and go rage till 2 a.m. There's the tip for you.
You're grown-ups! You're grown-up!
Ankita is right. Nobody should be telling her to lose weight to get married, okay? 42% of the American population is obese. 48% are married. Clearly, being slim and trim is no kind of prereq here, all right? If everybody had to lose all these pounds and develop symmetrically beautiful faces, I think the marriage rate would be like 5%. Some advice for Pradyuman: hey buddy, a lot of people over the years have asked me if I'm gay. And I tell you, dispelling the rumors by serving complicated cocktails and asking aunties to blow on them, probably not the best look, all right? You kind of remind me a little bit of Andy Dick teaching a BJ course in old school.
Which I then gave to the dog. But that's neither here nor there. Grab your vegetables.
Every reality show needs a villain. And probably to this day, nobody has topped that more than Omarosa, the woman from season 1 of The Apprentice, which was Donald Trump's reality show and the downfall of the American empire. Honestly, it's like Aparna Rosa. Are there really women like this? Yes, her mom. Remember the scene when they're walking dogs? I'm like, they are sisters. Aparna's mother and sister daughters have nothing less than 3 degrees. Hate to break it to you, auntie, but it's nothing fewer than 3 degrees. Maybe someone needs another degree. I guess you could marry Nick Lachey from Cincinnati. I mean, he has 98 degrees. Hey, look, the thing is, Aparna is upset that someone she dated didn't know that Bolivia had salt flats. Yet she's okay with the fact that Seema auntie can't tell a cat from a dog. And she just lets this go? But the real crime of Aparna and Akshay, stay tuned, is that they're boring. It's not that they're bad people. They are representative of most people out there. They just bring nothing to the table. That's not bad. It's just they have very high standards and nothing really to earn them. This is why people like this are not normally on TV. I mean, Aparna is basically the brown version of an entitled white woman. I mean, a talk show with her would have to be like Coffee with Karen. What is up with the men that the matchmaker keeps sending to poor Nadia? One doesn't drink, one doesn't eat meat. Hey, Seema auntie, why don't you find one with a severely debilitating peanut allergy? Look, few things in life have to line up, but it's hard to be with someone whose lifestyle is polar opposite from your own. A spender and a saver go together because a spender saves a little and the saver spends a little, or social butterflies and homebodies. Like, I love to go out. My wife reels me in a little bit. My wife, all things being equal, would probably rather stay in. I'm like, why don't we go out? So there's a good balance. But consuming animals and alcohol is binary. You either do or you don't. I mean, there is the concept, I guess, of not having hard liquor or not eating red meat. But this is India, okay? It's not like I'm vegetarian. Do you eat fish? No, they're vegetarian. There's a difference, okay? Somebody who swears something off and swears by it ain't gonna work. But at least she gets to go on a date with Shekhar Jayaraman.
I love when I hear people say that because I love being a lawyer.
Cincinnati represent. Yeah, yo. Dude, I think I had your dad as an engineering professor. I'm not kidding. The soundtrack. What is going on with the random hip-hop thrown in? I mean, Go to Work by B.B. O'Hare. Did they sort by lowest licensing fees? I mean, I looked her up and she has 3,000 followers on Instagram. Maybe she needs to go to work a little more often. Couldn't they get something cool like Eminem? Although, given our thin preference and colorism, we'd probably have to emphasize the slim and not the shady. I'm not saying astrology is garbage, okay? I believe we are children of the stars. After all, I live in Los Angeles. But what I find extremely vexing is the extremely broad advice that can apply to just about anybody.
Almost year and a half, you may have found that disappointment, often. You'll find that real happiness sometimes escapes you.
Yeah, everybody's like that. When you read a person, I want you to take a massive swing, okay? I interviewed to be a pharmaceutical rep at Johnson & Johnson. And in the interview, I remember the interviewer asked me, Andy Lopriato, I'll never forget his name, because So why do you think you'd be good in sales? I go, well, I'm good at reading people. He goes, read me. Yikes. Okay, wow, this is the big leagues. So I go on some rambling answer, but I conclude with, and you played the trumpet in high school. 2 weeks later, I got a job offer. Not only did Andy play the trumpet in high school, but also he went to state for playing the trumpet in high school. So, Mr. Astrologer, I don't want your prediction about how a single person is lonely. I want your trumpet moment. Till then, I want a study of how often these folks are actually right. I want a graph and charts. I want a graph with an x-axis of the astrological chart and a y-axis of how often these couples are actually happy and married later on. So give me some correlation or causation. I need some data. I liked Verka, the life coach. She made a lot of good points, and her most important probably was the fact that a lot of these people just don't know themselves. And I think that's true. There's a comedian named Dom Herrera. He put on something called command performance, and the description of it is people who have no concept of themselves. It's hilarious because it's true and it's sad. Unless you do the work, most human beings have no idea how they're being received by our fellow human beings, okay?
A lot of trouble comes in relationships when someone hasn't really sat with himself and understood himself.
I did that work in my 30s. I spent a lot of time doing it. Now, granted, I live in LA where the focus on me is an art form. And there is a fine line between self-improvement and self-absorption.
And there's a difference between being obsessed and being motivated.
Yes, there is.
But it can be done. I even went back John Cusack style in High Fidelity and I interviewed my ex-girlfriends. My point is, it's painful, it takes a lot of work, and if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're gonna go. It ain't where I've been, it's where I'm about to go. I just want to love. They do just want to love each other. Okay, I couldn't resist, all right? My point is, they need to do the work. This is why I often find it laughable when people in their 20s want you to call them men and women. I have a hard time with that. I feel like girls don't become women till they're 32, and don't get me started on boys. I think they become men around like 52. My really good friend is a doctor, and just this week, he told me something very interesting. He goes, the main thing we learn in rotations is when we walk in the room, within 30 seconds, we determine, am I looking at a sick person or not? And he goes, we make this evaluation almost independent of whatever the patient is telling us, because even though it's the patient's own body, a lot of the time, they don't know. It's the expert's job to know. And that's where Verka excels. Although Verka does make the dubious claim,
Physicality for the girl is as important as it is for the boy.
Really?
That's one aspect. Oh yes, absolutely.
you know, I'm gonna put on my Aperna lawyer hat for a minute and show you Exhibit A, my wife and me. Yeah, clearly not the case. In episode 4, an endearing older man interjects.
I think my dad wants to add something.
Would I be able to jump in here?
Yes, yes.
Now, I expect and I wish he finds a girl who is accommodating.
That's very important.
Very important.
That is the first thing.
Absolutely.
Now, what happens next, I don't know.
Has there ever been a more uncle moment that you've seen on screen? He looks like he's gonna say something sharp as a tack, and he downshifts into telling us something we all know. Thanks a lot, Pop Pop.
Does it at all, cross your mind that I'm 7 years older than you?
I've never understood why our societies pair up older men and younger women. Women outlive men. So this is just mean. They're gonna live alone much longer than even if they would have married someone their own age. Sexually, it doesn't make any sense either, because males peak sexually at 18 and females at 30. If we're trying to propagate the species, maybe we should be telling boys, don't go to college, stay home, and make some babies. I love how the video call between Jay and Aperna turns into a job interview.
If this business takes off, you have to figure out a way to scale it that's not service oriented, and then you might have to sell a product and you might need to sell a compound.
I mean, they may as well ask each other, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I mean, does LinkedIn now have a dating service, or what's going on here? Although, I love the advice that she gives him. It's very good, right? Because he's got this kitchen surface business, and she goes, you know what?
You put into another substance to make the epoxy yourself.
I'm like, wow, this is as good advice as anything you're gonna hear on Shark Tank. And for that reason, I'm in. Oh, and by the way, while we're in the idea generating business, Jay, I've got an idea for you too. Since you seem to know a lot about tabletops, here's the name of your business. Counterintuitive. You're welcome. Your invoice is in the mail. My favorite mistaken phrase of the entire series has to be, let me take your picture photo. This sounds to English speakers like you're saying the same thing twice, although, in fairness, maybe to Hindi speakers, bus stop sounds like the same thing twice. Hey, let's go to the bus stop. to the stop. In this day and age, dare I try to draw any distinction between men and women, and keeping in mind cisgendered heterosexual relationships, all right? I do think, though, there is something to the fact that women are more mature than men. That's a true, if not nebulous, statement. One way in which it manifests itself, though, is that generally if the right man comes around, the woman is ready. For men, there's this element of timing, and nothing illustrates this better than Rushali Rai. This bombshell falls right into Pradhiman's lap, and he passes. He even finds 3 different ways of saying the same thing.
I'll tell you that from her dressing style to her look and everything, how she carries herself, that I can meet her.
You really put the human in Pradhiman. You said the same thing 3 times. In fairness, the way that men view biodata anyway, Rushali's picture photo could take up 98% of the page, and it would be fine, right? I mean, she could just lorem ipsum the rest of the text. It could be like she's committed 3 murders. Nobody's perfect. When is she free for a horseback ride?
Nature of matchmaking after all. But definitely something more.
She is so clearly better looking than anyone else on the program. Like, I think she thought she was auditioning for India's Next Top Model, and the producers of IMM just ganked her audition tape and shoehorned her into the program. I mean, diversity of beauty was on full display. They run the gamut from super busted all the way up to Rushali. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't use that word. I mean, I guess I feel like I was looking at the sun sometimes. Pradhiman setting the scenes with stuff like,
You're lucky that you're in one of the best places in Mumbai.
Yeah?
This is.
The restaurant is completely empty. Nothing but the best for Rushali, huh, Prad? But at least you're an OG, calling it Bombay. Dude, during PM Modi's reign, keeping it real, fam. I like that. And then when Ms. Rai is talking about how she likes animals, my boy busts back with,
Mammals are more into sea life.
what are you, a zoologist all of a sudden? Take him to goat yoga and see how he fares. In fairness, though, that is my dietary policy. I don't eat mammals. Seriously, I don't. I have solidarity with the rest of our class. I mean, the hell with the rest of the phylum. By far, my favorite part of the program was the When Harry Met Sally intro in episode 5, when the husband tried to introduce his wife, Sunita Kabra, and she goes,
मैं अपना बताऊंगी आप अपना बोलो ना.
You go, Sunita. In 8 episodes, there's only one use of the word auspicious? Seriously? Round the world, uncles, aunties, pundits, acharyas, they all use the word auspicious to describe any occasion. I was going to name my next stand-up special An Auspicious Occasion. Boy, did Preeti Auntie do a number on Akshay. My gosh, dude, this guy has no personality whatsoever. I mean, I know we talk about the patriarchy crushing women. This is a great example of a grown man being dismembered by his overbearing mother and with no input from his ballless father.
I have my joint family with both my boys living together. Now the member who's going to come as Akshay's wife.
I mean, he rejects a woman for a tattoo, but if he had a tattoo, I swear it would be Anthony Perkins from Psycho.
Well, a boy's best friend is his mother.
It's kind of too bad he can't get with his cousin, Mancha.
Will kill me. What?
No.
Mom will kill you.
Yeah, and it takes.
Oh, what are you, 16?
No, but then.
Preeti Boy has brainwashed you.
It's not.
I know
her.
this. I know this.
No, it's not her. It's not her.
They could move to Texas. I think it's still legal there. Oh my gosh, my wife is gonna kill me for that one. Akshay's mother narrows it down to 3 women from Udaipur, Delhi, and Kolkata. Like he's marrying a city. And then when they finally do get engaged, he and Radhika, she can't remember this chica's name.
The search ends and his new life begins with Radhika.
What? Good luck making Akshay's Tiffin's what's your face?
There's this superstition, though, this Indian superstition that you're not supposed to do it after sunset. So I'll have to wait till the morning.
Well, that's true. That's so true. My mom would never let me vacuum the house until after dark.
Okay, I know you're not supposed to mow the lawn after dark because you can't bloody see the grass, but why can't you vacuum after dark? I've never heard this before. Is this like an ashes to ashes, dust to dust thing? Somebody please tell me why this is. I'm very curious.
I want to know. Tell me. I'm ready. I want to know.
The When Harry Met Sally E6 intro was incredible.
It was arranged marriage. We met through India Abroad, the Indian newspaper.
I guess they put the broad in India Abroad. This thing on? Come on. I mean, that was pretty good, right?
Smart, because Gandhi was 3.5 hours long and Tootsie was 1.5 hours long.
What did you guys do after you guys watched Tootsie?
Well, I don't know what they're into, but I bet he turned that other cheek. Turn that other cheek! Gandhi! Come on, that was gold. Ankita's use of the word douchebags, priceless.
I think I end up with douchebags because
I love that word, never gets old. I'm so glad it's gone global. There's a face reader. In a society accused of being too superficial, here's an entire profession that involves a guy looking at only faces, only looks. How is this an art, let alone a science? I mean, he may as well be like a palm reader or a boob reader. I mean, if you're gonna be that chauvinistic and just retrograde about the whole thing, let's, I can't quite tell your future, but my present is pretty incredible. You may as well just combine them and have a face palm reader. Good on the show for showing Rupam's sister married to an American, and they didn't hyphenate it. They didn't call him an African American. That is progress. The series just ends. There's no resolution. We have to Google to find out what happens with all of the couples, and by now, I'm going to give you a spoiler here, all right? So many of the other reviews have already done it. None of the couples makes it. It's insane. Radhika's not making any tiffins for Akshay. Preeti Auntie's blood pressure is probably 240/120. I mean, if I'm a man who wants to keep playing the field, I'm totally seeking out Seema Auntie, right? I mean, I'd be like, Seema, I tried. And I'd call up someone for that Thursday 9 p.m. drink. I'm kind of surprised the brand-conscious Seema allows this series to go out. In a way, good on her. It's very humbling, right? I mean, it shows none of her successes. I mean, I'm a stand-up comic. I perform at a lot of weddings. My reel shows me on stage and I'm doing great, right? I wouldn't be like, here's 7 instances of myself bombing. And by the way, in this one, I slept with the bride. In all seriousness, I'm glad not everybody decides marriage is for them. That's refreshing. Perhaps the usually immovable Indian society is finally budging. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to hear my thoughts on Indian matchmaking. You can check out my solo dating show, No Man's Land, available, of course, on YouTube. I've been your host, Rajiv, and I still am.